Yes.
Grandma shows up with like a mask over her head and it's like, hello, kiddos. You thought your grandma could only knit?
Hey.
Hello.
Welcome to the Tabletop Travel Guide, the podcast where we explore fictional worlds and civilizations right from the comfort of our own table.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Tyler. I've been playing TTRPGs for over 10 years, and I'm currently playing in 2 Pathfinder campaigns and GMing a 3rd Pathfinder campaign.
Yep, and I'm Ryan. I've also been playing TTRPGs 10 plus years, GMing a Pathfinder 2e campaign, and I'm playing in a Starfinder campaign simultaneously.
So last episode, we talked about the rise of the nation of Taldor and left off basically at the top of the roller coaster when the country was still at its apex.
Yes, so this is the part where we put our hands up and we scream for the steady decline.
If you haven't listened to that episode yet, you'll probably want to do that before listening to this one. Go ahead, we'll wait. Hey, welcome back. Hope you enjoyed the episode. So before we dive into part 2 of our Taldor series, we're actually going to start with our new segment called Tyler and Ryan Fix the Things We Mispronounced Last Episode.
Yeah, so the 2 engineering majors aren't so good at pronouncing things to the surprise of nobody. So go ahead and talk about the things that we mispronounced.
Okay, our 2 topics for today. First, the country that got obliterated by Starfall, and the people who our friend of the pod Aridin eventually descended from. The country of Aslant. And the people of who are Aslanti.
Aslant and the Aslanti people.
Second, we kept calling the people of Taldor Taldoran. So it turns out it's actually Taldan.
Yeah.
Which is also the language spoken in Taldor, and fun fact, is synonymous with common in the continent of Avestan.
Yes, if you are speaking Taldan, you are speaking common.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And that has been another fascinating segment of Tyler and Ryan Fix the Things We Mispronounced Last Episode. And with that, Ryan, what do you have for us today?
I have another historical artifact. I guess it's a newer one, though. It's definitely less worn.
Okay, I like it.
Another postcard.
Nice.
From Taldor, once again.
That one seems less picturesque because I see a person with what looks like a knife behind their back.
Yeah, this one appears to have more of a connotation of, well, I guess it says watch your back explicitly, but even a connotation of maybe things aren't as great as they used to be.
I appreciate a postcard that is, welcome to Taldor, watch your back.
I don't know if the Bureau of tourism has approved the man with knife behind their back, but it's certainly a strong statement on current Taldan values.
Yeah, I like it. And you see, I think there's a dragon back there.
We'll get into the dragon stuff.
Okay.
Dragons will play a very important part of our story going forward here.
So, compared to last episode, our postcards have gotten a little bit darker. It was very picturesque last time.
A little bit darker, yeah. Things are not as good in current day Taldor as they were back in the Prime. And we alluded to that previously, that things are not going to go so well for Taldor from here on out.
Okay. Yeah, tell me where we're at.
When we last spoke, the armies of exploration were happening. And that's all over Avestan and into Garund, right? While all this is happening, Kadira, which is the nation to the south of Taldor, there's still that omnipresent threat. And the last little piece of good news is Kadiran internal politics actually ends up signing a peace with the current Taldan Grand Prince.
Nice.
Yeah, the Cold War that was occurring is functionally over. And even though Taldor has experienced this devastating defeat in the most recent Army of Exploration, if you are a citizen of Taldor, you might be thinking, yeah, okay, we lost a battle, but we've lost battles before. We fought the orcs and it didn't work.
Well, and also, that's in another country, right? For the day-to-day Taldor people,
right?
They're probably not noticing any sort of, maybe a little bit of hit of morale, but not they're not getting invaded.
Correct, yes. There are no foreign invaders at the doors. Bad things aren't really happening inside of Taldor. Except...
There's always a but.
Except bad things are going to start happening inside of Taldor.
Okay.
So the first kind of bad thing that happens is in 2133 AR. This is the 7th Army of Exploration.
They didn't want to end on a low note.
Correct. They wanted to go back out there. They didn't want to say, we lost in the south, but we can get that mojo back.
There you go.
Except all they do is walk into their own province and they destroy more of the Kellid tribes. The thing we talked about that started in the 4th Army of Exploration.
Oh.
They finished that business. So there's specifically one Kellid tribe. They successfully just put them down.
So they decided, instead of going and fighting people that they, would have been good matches, they just picked on somebody far smaller than their own size.
Yes, the entire Taldan army decides, we're going to put that little tribe in the mountains down.
Okay.
And it's so brutal and bad that the parts of the military and internal people look at that. The Taldan leadership literally goes, no, I don't think we're the good guys.
Are we the baddies?
Yeah, you can see the seeds of that doubt of Taldan superiority start to be sown in this moment, where the generals look around and think, what are we doing here? We're not conquering foreign peoples for the glory of Taldor. We're like up in mountains punching and stabbing like this one random tribe for what?
Yeah.
And this is where it really starts to fall apart. So that was in 2133 AR. In 2632 AR, so 400 or 500 years again.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, Taldor is still a huge nation. The elves return.
Oh.
Yes. So the previously conquered province of Keonan, which was pretty much empty, all of a sudden a whole bunch of elves show up at a portal and just explode outward from inside the nation, or inside this province.
This is, at this point, the elves come back when they left from Earthfall.
Yes, so the group of elves that were in Keonan before Earthfall, they hop back in the portal, or the teleporter, or whatever mechanism they used to get out, and they show up back, and they look around and go, all these humans have explored our territory.
These humans weren't here when we left.
What's a human?
Yeah.
Let's kick them out of our lands. And the Taldan armies, which are spread all across the huge periphery of the empire, don't have this huge concentrated force in what they thought was very friendly, farmy territory.
Yeah.
And the Keonan elves just completely wipe the floor. Taldor loses control of Keonan, and they will never get it back. They lose that entire province in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
5-10 years, which is, again, small scale, all things considered.
Yeah, this was, a couple hundred years after the Army of Exploration, so I imagine they didn't expect the fight to come to them from inside the building.
Yes, things were very quiet, and then all of a sudden, in the broom closet, surprise! And then it just, I'm going to keep saying this, but it keeps going down. So from 2632 to 2742, this might be a little too prescient, a devastating respiratory disease sweeps through Taldor called the Choking Death.
That's topical.
Yeah, it's a little too topical, possibly. It originates off in the Far East, so there's not a hard origin for this disease, but it just blows through the Empire, and they don't have any real defense against this disease.
You can't stab a disease.
The one thing that Taldor is really good, you can't form an army of exploration to fight a respiratory illness. And they just lose a whole bunch of their population. It's not a death blow, but a nation that already kind of had an injured sense of itself now also has a huge labor shortage.
Well, and it's so it's not a natural disaster on the scale of the Tarrasque, but it's still not.
Correct.
Okay.
And speaking of natural disasters, only 200 years later in 2920 AR, Taldor and Qadira are both hit by a bunch of massive earthquakes.
Oh.
And they all seem to conveniently land in their city centers. So multiple urban centers throughout Taldor and Qadira are just devastated.
Oh.
The capital of Opara is completely ruined for portions of it.
Yeah.
Some of the capital of Qadira is also hit really, really hard. Tens of thousands are killed.
Oh my gosh.
There's already a population shortage, and the solution in this case is, well, let's just bury all the rubble and build as quickly as we can.
Okay. So you said they happen to be in city centers. Were they planned? Were they natural?
So there's no. This is not formally acknowledged.
Okay.
I think this is one of those things that Paizo kind of throws out there as a maybe for GM.
Okay.
GM kind of fiat. But with all the population shortage and just the inability to repair correctly, the Taldan solution is, well, let's just kind of bury all the rubble and build some temporary structures.
Just stamp it down.
Yeah.
And so that's fair.
Before we had these golden roofed structures and the beautiful white marble. Now we're getting back toward that more medieval style of architecture where it's wood buildings and maybe normal stone instead of white marble, and we're just stacking things and trying to quickly repair these.
And this is still, you said it's 2900, which is still almost 2,000 years prior to present day, right?
Yes. Okay. Yes. This is still 2,000 years.
2,000 years ago.
Correct.
Okay.
And what this results in, under most Taldon and some Khandiran cities, there are these large infrastructures of catacombs and destroyed buildings that are just constantly infested with monsters and organized crime and all kinds of bad things that you wouldn't want under your city centers. Yeah. And it just enables all of these malcontents and these evil creatures and all these criminal organizations to establish their permanent bases of operation.
Yeah, you basically have a city under a city.
Yes, which is obviously very bad for like going forward, for building that trust and building back toward that golden age of empire. You just have like the open wound under all of your city centers. And you kind of alluded to it. Was it a natural disaster? Was it an act of God? Was it some kind of conspiracy? The Taldor nobles are right with you, Tyler. They are right there with what you're thinking.
Conspiracy.
So the Taldor nobles think, oh, well, obviously the Khandirans are out to get us. They are the ones that orchestrated this giant national disaster, and they false flagged themselves to prevent the Taldans from thinking they did it.
Yeah, of course.
And this, again, another kind of wound that starts to fester. Yeah. So the nobles now, where before that they were all on like the same track. We're all going to help along these armies of exploration. We're all going to fight for the glory of Taldor. Now they're not so united. They think their government's lying to them. They think the people are lying to them. They think they're lying to each other.
Oh my gosh, this episode's getting a little too close to home.
You know, it's all, history never repeats. History always rhymes a little bit.
Yeah.
So we're hearing some little bit of rhymes. What will come of all this is there will be a noble conspiracy called the White Wardens from all of this.
Okay.
And the White Wardens, they think the Khandirans have made an alliance with Rovagug.
Yeah.
And they're trying to bring the, what's it called? Apocalypse Engine.
Oh, the Tarrasque.
They're trying to bring the Tarrasque back.
Hold on.
Like, this is a... Yeah. This is chaos incarnate.
Okay. So, quick aside, he came up last episode, and I don't think we really explained who he was. So, Rovagug. In the first episode, you might remember, we talked about how this planet, Golarion, has a prison at the center of it, and a deity exists that is currently stuck in that prison. We didn't name it in the first episode, but we talked about it, and that is Rovagug.
Rovagug, yes.
Yeah. So we don't need to go into too much detail, but just connecting, when you hear Rovagug, think the destroyer of worlds currently in the middle of the world.
Yeah, chaos incarnate.
Okay.
He is portrayed as just like a big open mouth.
Yeah. Carry on.
Yes. So the Taldans of this plot, the White Wardens, they think, aha, the Khandirans and Rovagug, they're all in it together to take down Taldor. So they think, well, in order to stop this conspiracy, we better kill the Grand Prince and put ourselves in control so we can stop this conspiracy.
Wait, okay, hold on. So the nobles thought Khadira was under this. So then they decided to kill their own Grand Prince.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The only way to stop the evil from outside the country is to kill your own leader so you can then stop the... Yes.
What could Perfect. Great planning.
And it doesn't work.
Okay.
The Grand Prince sniffs it out, puts some of them to death, imprisons others. The White Warden conspiracy itself is destroyed and defeated.
Okay.
But again, you're going to keep hearing like they never get all the White Wardens, and it's just this festering boil of now there's some nobles out there who think the main government it's more of a conspiracy, and
it just gets worse and worse and kind of spirals.
Yep, it just builds and builds and builds, and 3660, another noble conspiracy is happening.
So about what, 700 years after?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
I mean, they made it a while before the conspiracy.
Well,
I mean, I'm sure it wasn't, they weren't just sitting around for a while.
They certainly weren't sitting around. So this conspiracy, oh man, they don't have a name, but they found this thing called the Orb of Dragonkind.
Cool.
And it's not quite clear what they were going to do with the Orb of Dragonkind, but while they are experimenting with the Orb of Dragonkind, it makes every single metallic dragon in Taldor go insane.
Okay, so quick primer on drag, and then it's the metallic dragons.
Yes, so let's very, very briefly. Metallic dragons, bronze, brass, copper, gold, silver, are your quote-unquote good dragons.
Good dragons,
and
thumbs
then
up.
Your chromatic dragons, black, blue, green, red, and white, are your bad dragons.
Okay, so this orb basically turned all of the good dragons insane.
Yes, so all the ones that were living in Taldor and were generally helping Taldor,
Yeah.
all those metallic dragons go insane.
Oh.
And so for the next 12 years, it's called the Draconic Plague, or the Dragon Plague. And all these metallic dragons just start running around, burning down cities, attacking commoners, and killing people left and right.
Oh.
So Taldor looks at the situation and goes, well, we have this orb of dragonkind. We can't turn it off. Like, they try, and it doesn't work. So all the dragons are basically permanently insane now. So Taldor really does the only thing that Taldor can do.
No.
They put out a general order to go dragon slaying.
Oh, gosh.
And the Taldan military, like, kind of circles the wagons and kills the vast majority of metallic dragons in their own borders.
Oh boy. Okay.
Which, weird side note, a lot of Taldans will, like, look back on their family heritage now, and they're like, yes, my great-great-grandfather was a dragon slayer, leaving out the portion.
The fact that was like, that dragon beforehand was my ally's neighbor.
Yeah,
My ancestor.
that was a gold dragon whose only job was to guard your border. But yeah, sure, you're a dragon slayer
My ancestor killed his neighbor Dave.
Yes.
But he was a dragon slayer.
Yes. And then all the chromatic dragons are like, whoa, this is so cool. Free land. So all the chromatic...
free real estate.
That's free real estate, baby. So all the chromatic dragons now move in.
Oh, no.
And again, we're not going to talk too much about chromatic dragons, but they're more likely looking for... They want tribute, they want sacrifices, they want some other bad stuff. So where before you might have had this gold dragon or the silver dragon living nearby, who was really, really nice, they might even turn into like a human and come like to market and just chill with you. Now you have this red dragon who took over the same house, shows up every 6 months and goes, hello, I'm here for 1,000 gold and 2 sacrifices, please.
Okay.
Not
going
great. So you would think, all right, it's time to step it up. We're going to push the chromatic dragons out, right?
Yeah.
Not right. We're going to ignore that problem.
So, this is fine.
We just live with chromatic dragons
This
now.
is our life. It's the dog in the fire. This
Yes,
is fine.
this is fine, looking around. Instead, 3754, we're going to embark on the largest military campaign in Taldan history, which has nothing to do with the dragons. Okay. We're going to go over to Last Wall. So there's this guy, this lich, called Tar-Baphon. He's been up and down a couple times.
So, wait, explain what a lich is.
It is a really, really powerful wizard who found a way to make himself eternally undead. Kind of like a really smart wizard zombie.
Perfect. Wizard zombie.
Yes.
Immortal.
Immortal wizard zombie.
Cool.
So Tar-Baphon's been in and out. If you could probably do a whole episode on just following the life and times of Tar-Baphon. But he comes back again. And this time he goes, remember our orc friends?
Yeah.
Over in the Hold of Belkzen? Yeah. He goes, hey, you know those guys who came exploring a while ago?
Oh, no.
Why don't you join me and let's go kick their butts?
Oh, the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah. So he convinces all the orcs who want to go a-fighting to come back through and just go raiding all through Taldor. And it's a win-win for Tar-Baphon because when the orcs come through as living orcs, it's a powerful orc army. And then when they die in battle, he just shows up and raises them as zombie orcs. And they continue to be an army. And Taldor says, look, we have so many problems right now, but this is clearly a priority.
Yeah.
So the next 150 years is called the Shining Crusade.
Okay.
And this is, again, the largest military endeavor in Taldan history. They unite the nations. This is the closest Taldor is going to be to the UN. They go to the south, they go to the north, the east, the west, and they go, no matter what our differences, this dude is straight up evil.
Yeah.
And we can all agree that he needs to be stopped.
Yeah.
And they build a coalition. They successfully put the army together. So we have General Arnescent. General Arnescent founds the Knights of Ozum, which will come back later in the story. We have the first appearance of Iomedae on the world stage, who will eventually become a god.
Nice.
Yeah, they succeed. It takes them 150 years and lots of casualties, but they push Tar-Baphon. They don't kill him. They imprison him, and they win this war.
Nice.
They put him in a cell. They literally establish a country around his prison called Lastwall.
Okay.
And it's the former Taldor or Taldan province. So Taldor has now lost two provinces. They lost one to the elves, and they've kind of chunked their own province off and said, you know what? This is so important.
You guys deal with that.
You are your known. Yeah, it's like a spin-off.
Yeah.
You're going to spin off, and your whole job is now only to protect that prison.
Okay.
Okay. So maybe things are looking up a little bit. Yeah, we lost Lastwall. The parts that Tar-Baphon really established in Ustalav, those are quasi-independent. Taldor can't project power, but it's sort of kind of still their land.
Yeah.
We gotta take a breath, put it all back together. Remember Kadira?
Yeah. Our good friend Kadira. Always back.
Our good friend Kadira, back in the south.
Oh, jeez.
So Kadira thinks, whoa, Taldor is overextended after this 150-year campaign. Time to invade and just dig the knife in a little bit.
Oh, Taldor.
Yeah, so Kadira invades. They take part of the southern parts of like Taldor internal provinces. The fighting on the Taldor southern border will go on and off now for the next 500-ish years.
Oh my gosh.
And Taldor, whatever army remnants were left from that Shining Crusade, some of those people are going to leave because they feel like they've defeated that big baddie.
Yeah.
The ones who stay are going to come now to the southern border. And they're going to go now fight this 500-year war with Kadira.
Oh my gosh. So after a 150-year war with Tar-Baphon, they're like, let's keep it going.
Just eternal war. Just spin it up. We're going to always have a border crisis. There's always a border crisis. Okay. You're now going to get the culmination. So there's crises all over the borders. You have your nobles internally who are not happy with the government.
Yeah.
In 4081 AR, the province of Cheliax, specifically the leader of Cheliax, aspects the even-tongued. He and his people are sick and tired of paying for all of these foreign campaigns. We've fought a lich, we're fighting the Kadirans, we're fighting the elves. All of the wealth of the Chelaxian province is just leaving. It's just being sucked out.
Yeah.
And he says, enough is enough. I declare independence. I'm done.
Look, Keonan can do it. Lastfall can do it. Cheliax is the...
Right. Cheliax is the next one to just think, we can self-manage ourselves better than Taldor can manage us. And Taldor can't do anything about it.
Yeah, they're already fighting a war.
Right. They're so depleted. The real issue here is then Aspects goes to a bunch of other provinces and goes, hey, we just successfully left Taldor. You should also declare your independence from Taldor.
Have you heard the good word of independence?
Have you heard the good word of not Taldor? So Isker, Galt, the River Kingdoms, Rostland, Isia, all declare their own independence in one way, shape, or form.
Oh, wow.
Lastwall is sitting up there and goes, hey guys, remember that time you spun me out so my only job was to worry about Tar-Baphon? I'm going to stay neutral. And neutral means not helping Taldor.
Oh.
And Taldor is now fallen apart.
Yeah.
Where before they were this large continent-spanning empire, they lose probably 70% of their empire in the next 5 years.
What? That goes from, you said, that's like what, 7 countries that just spun out once? So
And Cheliax is a really big nation at this point.
Yeah.
They're going to have their own internal revolts here in the future, spoilers, that are going to further balkanize and split countries off from that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Taldor as like a world power now is kind of falling apart. And this is called the even-tongued conquest. A sword was not raised in this. All these countries stand up, decide to revolt, and Taldor just shrugs their shoulders and goes, well, we have a giant war on our southern borders. So
we can't really quell rebellion.
Yeah. So it doesn't go so great, but there's still hope.
Okay. Where are we at this point?
That was 4081.
So we're 700 years, give or take, prior to now.
Yes.
Okay.
And the last big event in Taldan history that before we get our current borders, you know what? There's still a chance. I know it sounds like it's a long shot, but we're going to go exploring one last time, baby.
When all else fails, Taldor will always have the exploration.
So Taldor declares the 8th Army of Exploration.
Perfect.
It's not super big, but we weren't big before. We can do big things again. Yeah. Maybe we can walk over to Cheliax and reestablish our control and make this whole thing happen again. Except, friend of the pod, Aridin.
Oh, friend of pod.
There was we talked about our previous prophecy.
Yeah, and the Starfall Doctrine.
Yes, the Starfall Doctrine, that everything was going to be great and Aridin was going to come back.
Yeah.
Aridin dies.
Yes.
So friend of the pod dies.
So They're like, we're going to go exploring because we're about to hit the Age of Glory.
Yes. And the Age of Glory does not come.
Oh, no.
So while this final army of exploration is on the boats, the entire world is rocked by these huge storms. And these poor little boats are just completely knocked off course and end up in Tianjia.
Okay, and that's
which is very far away.
That is the continent far to the east from the inner sea region where we were.
It'd be like setting out from Greece and getting blown so far off course you end in Japan.
That'd be impressive.
This is a little nougat of possible campaigning. There is a Taldan settlement in Tianjia called Amandadar. Amandadar. I know I spelled it right. Amandadar. I'm sure that'll pop up in next times if we pronounced it wrong. Yeah, and they're still there. So if you go exploring in Tianjia, you will find this tiny little bastion of Taldan civilization, we'll call it at this point, where they just think like, well, everything's fine. The mother country will come for us soon, and the glory will erupt out from our borders.
Narrator, they won't.
They won't. That takes us to the end, to the modern times, essentially. There aren't other major Taldan historical events. So when we touch other nations, there are still other things that are going to happen before current day, but Taldor as a story is kind of done. It's going to just be stagnant.
Yeah, because 4606, that's about 120-ish years, give or take?
Correct.
So what, does anything happen in the meantime?
Correct. I mean, the Cheliax is going to be racked with revolts. Galt will be racked with revolts. There's a lot more outside of Taldor, but in terms of internal to Taldor, you're going to have what was previously this big, successful nation. They're going to keep latched onto that legacy, but they're no longer that big, shining beacon on a hill.
Yeah.
They have this enormous Byzantine bureaucracy where there are like 8 different laws that describe if you can go out in the morning and get water from a well. Or even my favorite, there are multiple laws that dictate if you are or are not allowed to have a beard.
And they don't agree with each other.
Yes, when they are enforced completely unequally throughout the country. So in some places, like if you, the overhead is, if you are a noble, you are allowed to have a beard. If you are a peasant, you are not allowed to have a beard.
Makes sense.
Except, who cares?
Yeah, it's
it's facial hair. Who cares? Yeah. So a lot of the more rural areas may or may not enforce that. So you might be a peasant growing a beard and then decide to go to market to buy some butter, and you're thrown into prison for 30 years for having a beard in another nearby little like hamlet.
So this is just completely fragmented government.
Yes. And there's like intersecting townships and provinces and protectorates, and they're all ruled by different barons and sheriffs and princes and dukes. And it's this nasty tapestry of competing interests.
Yeah.
And it's the ultimate expression of what happened earlier, where nobody trusts each other. All the nobles think all the other nobles are out to get them. And instead of going out and fighting like external forces, all they do is they'll raise like 500-600 dudes, and they're going to go back and fight the other 500-600 Taldan dudes.
So
it's almost full circle, right? We started this story with Taldor fighting regionally and locally over control of individual rivers and like small plots of resources, and we're right back there. All these dukes and barons, they all exist now to one-up each other on the battlefield and even one-up each other at dinner parties. Like, people will assassinate each other for ever so slight disrespect at a dinner party.
Okay, let's do it. Sure. Why not?
And that's, I think, where the postcard kind of comes in.
Yeah.
It's one giant backstabby, concerning area that Taldor could go one way or the other. If it continues to be stagnant, it's super likely that all of its competitors and border nations are probably going to eat it up at this point. They don't stand a great chance if they stay fractured.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, if Taldor can get its stuff together, and the implication in the current lore is it has a chance with the new Grand Princess.
Mm-hmm. Princess Eutropia?
Princess Eutropia, that's correct. They might be able to turn it around and make Taldor a thing again. Okay,
so as of present day, like, starting a tiny nugget of hope.
Yes, there's a small nougat, the nougat in the center of the story that Taldor might be able to dig themselves out of it, but it's going to take an enormous exponential amount of energy to get back over the hump and start getting back to where they were in the past. And
Man,
that is Taldor.
That's a wild ride.
It is
started from the bottom and now we're back to the bottom.
It is the roller coaster of we left the station, we went all the way up that hill, and now we've gone down the hill, we've killed a bunch of dragons, and we're back to the start.
Back to the start.
Yeah.
Man.
I find it super interesting just from the perspective of they are kind of the progenitors of all the other history that happens now.
Yeah.
So as we continue to talk about other nations, we're going to always end up bouncing back to Taldan history.
Oh, yeah. Especially in Avestan. It's just every country we talk about going forward is going to have fingerprints of Taldor all over it.
Right. So it's said in one of the source books, Taldor is Avestan, and I'm inclined to agree. Taldor is Avestan. It's critical, but it sits on the precipice now.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm going to leave it.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ryan. That was a great story. Very epic, and came back down, and now we're here.
Yeah.
So, perfect. We'll take a break, and then when we come back, we'll talk about a campaign that could happen and a character that could be currently living there.
Oh, let's go. I'm excited.
We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back to the Tabletop Travel Guide.
We are back.
We are back. And now it is the segment where I will talk about a campaign idea and we will fit Ryan's character into it in some way.
I'm less confident for this one.
I am also less confident for this one.
Let's try it. All right, let's go.
Okay. So I knew going into this that I would have to make a political intrigue campaign.
Yep.
The problem is I suck at political intrigue. We're in a campaign right now that you are running that was told basically political intrigue, and all our party has done is just killed a bunch of people to get what we want, and then talked a little bit.
I mean, what do you expect when two barbarians show up to the political intrigue
That's
party?
true. You never bring barbarians to a political intrigue party. Anyway, all that to be said, I am generally not great. I like the idea of it. I am just not smart enough to be a political powerhouse when it comes to in-campaign and role-playing.
Okay.
But for this, I'm still going to do a political intrigue campaign, because dang it, I got to stick to what Taldor is good at.
We're going to try it.
And I'm going to add a twist that I can kind of ground to. So, like in the last campaign, I always kind of pull inspiration from other media and then kind of turn it into D&D.
Sure.
So my inspiration for this campaign is there's a book series called The Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson.
Okay. I know the author.
Yeah. So he writes tons of books, but one of his characters in The Stormlight Archive in his first book, Shallan, is part of a family.
Okay.
And she has brothers. And this family was once very wealthy and noble and all this stuff. But their father died, and it turns out he had a ton of debts. And then their main source, there's an artifact they had that basically broke.
Okay.
And so that's how they made their money, and it broke. And so now they're on the verge of bankruptcy.
Oh, the artifact was their revenue stream?
Yeah,
okay.
it was basically an artifact that can create stuff.
Okay.
And so they lost that. And so they are now trying to figure out, A, how do we get our money back? We owe a lot of people. And B, how do we make it seem like we're still noble?
Sure. Well,
they need to because people will ask questions and they're like, well, everything's fine. It's fine.
Right. And the that's always the immortal question for nobles is I owe money to a lot of people.
Yeah.
How do I make sure better?
Yeah. Basically in the book, the plan is, hey, we're going to go steal a similar artifact. So these things are not one of a kind.
Sure.
We're going to go steal another one, bring it back home. Everything will be fine. We'll make money back. Whatever.
Okay.
So pivoting into how I'm going to play that for our campaign. And again, this is kind of a challenge to you because the party will all be siblings in a noble family.
Ooh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, that was once super rich in a Taldan family. Super rich, probably they might have had a good time back in the Shining Crusade or their ancestors.
Yeah.
They might have had they might have been one of the families that we talked about in the campaign for last episode they just had a long legacy. But for whatever reason, they're broke now. Whether it's the infighting, whether they assassinated the wrong person, whatever. They are now on hard times. And so have to both make money back in some form and hide the fact that they are broke.
Oh my gosh, yes. It's a constant weekend at Bernie's of no, I'm not broke. Are you broke?
Yeah. So how I would set this campaign up, I would segment it into months. And so Pathfinder as a system has different modes of play. So you have you have encounter mode where you're in a battle, you're stabbing people, like tactics mode where you're going over seconds.
Yes.
And then you have exploration mode, which you might be exploring a dungeon and taking like tens of minutes.
Yes.
And then they have downtime mode where it could be anything from days, it could be months, it can be years.
Yep.
And so this would really kind of lean into the downtime mode where you basically have a month. And within that month, you have certain choices you have to make, whether you go out adventuring, whether you open a bar, whether you do whatever. Basically, you need to make money. Mm-hmm. But also, while making money, you need to build alliances. And also, while building those alliances, you need to lie to those alliances to make sure that they don't realize that you are broke.
Oh my gosh, being the party face in this would be so much fun.
Yeah, and so at the end of every month, you have a noble ball.
Ooh.
And so they can be kind of a like check-in. You see all the noble families. You all have to go and you have to save face and you have to show up and be like, yes, everything is fine at the noble household. And
didn't you wear that dress last month?
Right.
No, I definitely didn't wear this dress last month. Someone give me a new dress.
Yeah, you might have to think about that. Like, what do I do? So as you go month to month, you're like trying to get back money to pay debtors. You're maybe like, there's a lot of choices you're making, but with the goal of we need to get back to our nobility. Basically, we need to be rich again. All in all, the political intrigue is we don't got money, we need money.
So this is not a world-spanning, we're going to save the planet scenario.
No, this is our family needs money. I need a new horse. I need spending money, and we need to figure out how to get this.
Well, Timmy, I know that you're only 7, but it's time for you to earn your keep.
You need to go out adventuring.
So go kill an orc, kiddo.
Yeah, so where, some campaigns are like, we are doing missions for the good of the people. We're sacrificing ourselves for the good of the world. This family is a bunch of people who are like, we are going out into dungeon just to make money. And we need money. And then we got to clean our freaking clothes afterwards.
Oh my gosh. I'm getting very like Schitt's Creek vibes.
Yes.
Oh my
great.
gosh.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. Like they started from the top and now they're at the bottom and they need to dig themselves out.
Oh my gosh. I'm so on board for this.
So yeah, that's kind of my campaign. I'm sure there'd be, if people find out you're broke, that might add some complications. That might hurt some alliances.
Sure.
I'm not exactly sure how I would handle the minutia of that. But the end of this campaign is basically you either go broke or you get rich or die trying.
2 end games.
Yeah.
Dead or rich again.
Oh,
I love it.
Yeah. Okay. So how does your character, who is your character and how can we fit her? So
my character is Maria Sevilla.
Okay.
She is a level 6 thaumaturge.
And a thaumaturge
I'm going to be honest. So this, again, a little bit of randomness involved here. And I rolled thaumaturge and I thought, I've never really built one. So I'm going to give it a shot. And I know you play one in our current campaign.
I'm literally playing a thaumaturge in your campaign. And half the time, I don't know what I can do. You're basically really good at skills. And just really good at knowing things, pulling random garbage out of your pocket and turning it into enemy weaknesses or scrolls or potions or whatever.
So my kind of interpretation of this character was she previously was invested in the Erendite faith.
That's
the faith of Eredin.
Okay.
And maybe it was in the Starfall Doctrine where she was super on board and she's like, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. And then it all falls apart, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen. And so then she kind of spends her formative years seeing Taldor finally fall from grace.
Yeah.
And where she had all these optimistic ideals as a young noblewoman who's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be one of the rulers of the largest empire in human history, is now this sucks.
This empire sucks.
This is awful. Again, the thaumaturge side, I was like, maybe she's traveling. She's almost always at the most inopportune point in her travels where she's in Cheliax as Cheliax leaves.
Yeah.
And so she has a trinket that is from Cheliax leaving. And then she's like, well, I'll go to my summer home in Galt. And then Galt leaves. Yeah. And so she's if you were to go into her house, she might have bookcases full of just, oh yes, this is from my travels in Lastwall when it was also in a thing that I was going to maybe be a ruler over.
So is this she's not human if she's, or Is she
I had
human?
her spec'd as a human.
Okay.
It might make more sense for her to be like half-elf.
Yeah. I'm not sure the timeline, but okay.
Yeah, and I
Regardless.
think you can slot her in
Yeah,
somewhere and bring those boundaries in more in line. So I think the way that I would integrate her, though, is she might be your like long-lost aunt who went off and maybe wasn't the most respectable noble blood.
Yeah.
Like everything started happening and she disappeared for a few years. And now she's come back to the family and she maybe has a little bit more knowledge and some better perspective on current events than the rest of the party members.
Yeah.
Or maybe as a party member has a better, more worldly understanding of like, I know we want to get our money back, but like things happen.
Yeah. So she's kind of she could almost be a voice of wisdom among the party who's just like, I want my yacht.
Yes. Well, I know yachts are great, kiddo, but maybe we should settle on a sailboat first before we go for the yacht.
Yeah, of course.
So I think that's probably where I slot her in.
Nice.
I definitely was thinking of like sort of crazy grandma vibes when I was envisioning her. So she would still be worldly, but then she'd have these moments. So I have her as a longbow wielder.
Okay.
Where she can kind of turn it on and it's like, well, grandma's not as good as she used to be, but she can still kill an orc. She can still shoot a noble from 50 feet away.
Right at the eye.
So she could kind of turn a little bit and still be a useful combat asset as well.
I feel like even if you didn't have her, if you didn't want her as a PC, I think having her as like, the crazy grandma, if she's like the family, if it's the family that all the kids are, she's the grandma who just pops in randomly. It's like grandma, dad, and then all the kids, and the kids are trying to bring money back to this house, and she's just like, hello, kiddos. And
I do love the idea of like introducing her. If she's going to be an NPC, you introduce her as like, oh, well, that's Grandma Maria. And she's like in a corner, just like knitting or something very inoffensive. And then something occurs where like the house is attacked or maybe the party needs like bailed out of their first. Maybe that's perfect. The first time the party like messes something up and they need to be bailed out.
Yes.
Grandma shows up with like a mask over her head and it's like, hello, kiddos. You thought your grandma could only knit?
Oh, I love that.
I can knit with a bow arrow from 200 feet away.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I think she would fit in very well as an NPC.
Yeah, and again, I don't know how to play a thaumaturge, so.
Yeah, they are super fun, but also there's so many things I need to keep track of. I need to like roll knowledge. I can do that very well.
So we have the noble family with Grandma Maria.
I like it.
Hanging out, helping the kiddos.
Helping the kiddos try to get their money back.
Get the family fortune back.
Nice. Perfect.
That kind of fits our general Taldor theme, and I think that's pretty good.
Man, I like it. Now that we've caught up to present-day Taldor, it's time to give the Tabletop Travel Guide official rating.
Yep.
If we are to go there now.
Yep.
So, Ryan, on a scale of 1 to 5 backstabs, backstabs is our yard marker for today.
Yep.
What would you give Taldor as a vacation spot?
I think current day Taldor is still probably like 3.5 out of 5 backstabs.
Okay.
Maybe even 4 out of 5 backstabs.
4 out of 5 backstabs.
Yeah, I think as for all its faults, even though it's no longer at its former glory, I still think like as a tourist, we could probably show up, like have a week. We'd probably get like pickpocketed. we would maybe get robbed. But like as a whole, I think we'd still have like an enjoyable experience if we went to Opara current day.
So I'd say if we had Taldor Prime at 4 out of 5 explorations, I'd probably say maybe 3.
3 out of 5 backstabs.
3 to 5 backstabs.
Okay, still not. It's still above average, kind of like
we'll
in
see.
The scheme of things.
As we go forward, we might adjust these ratings because they're obviously with how scientific they are, we can change them.
Sure.
But cool. Okay, so now that we've talked through basically most influential country in Avestan, I think like we said earlier, we'll see the fingerprints of Taldor all over as we go forward.
Yes.
But that will be a story for another episode.
Yes.
So until then, happy travels, everybody.
Safe travels, guys.